I want to move on to something else that's just nowhere near as serious, but just as bizarre. Now, Netball Australia, we love the game of netball, but Netball Australia, I mean, remember they gave up a $15 million sponsorship because of some ridiculous historical slight that they wanted to deliver to Hancock Prospecting. Now, apparently, they've rejected a ban on transgender athletes that Global Netball is imposing, Tim. But Netball Australia reckon, well, if you've got male genitals, if you're a bloke who wants to pretend he's a woman, you can turn up and play netball. I mean, it's outrageous mistreatment of the girls and women who play this great sport.
Oh, yeah, Netball Australia are playing wing defence for the trans movement on this one. It's funny, isn't it, that when Australia's out of sync with the global leftist opinion on things like refugees or climate change, that we're all shamed and we're abused by our betters in Canberra, that we're letting down the team, and we're a global pariah. But on something like this, it's a principled individual stand. Well, how about we add then, let's roll along with this, with the netball uniforms where you have to wear the bibs with your position so that you know you're not in the right place on the court. Just add a B for bloke, and then everyone's happy.
Yeah, it's just so infuriating again, Mark, because there's no more important sport for young girls in this country than netball. They play netball against girls, and that's how fair. That's the only fair way to play it, unless you're in a mixed team, right? You can always have mixed netball. We've all played a bit of that, but girls should only play against girls.
Mate, and for one reason as well, with the defence of standing there with a big pit in your face, that'd be horrible. Could you imagine? Like, that's their number one complaint. Netball Australia is in Fitzroy. I drive past the office all the time, and I think their world barriers are literally Smith and Brunswick Street. That's as far as it goes. It's in quite a state, netball. It's got no real money, no real sponsorship, no real crowds, and now no real women.
Yeah.
It's a bold strategy, Chris. I want to see how it plays out for them.
Yeah, they're killing one of the great sports of Australia, one of the sports where we tend to dominate worldwide. They're trying to kill it. Now, let's stick on sport, and one of your favourite blokes in the country, Tim Blair, Peter Fitzsimons, former rugby bloke of some form of another. He's had a swipe at rugby league player Tedesco from the Sydney Roosters. Teddy Tedesco got knocked out. So Peter Fitzsimons goes into print saying this guy ought to give it away. He's had too many concussions, give it away. Now, never mind how that might anger or confuse or worry his family. Never mind that this might be something for Tedesco to actually, consider himself in consultation with his doctors and his family. No, Fitzy says give it away.
Now, I know that Peter's paid for his opinion, as am I, as all of us on this panel. But does he ever stop and think that he might let the paint dry a little bit before he rushes into these sort of things? Does he ever think that maybe, given his recent record, actually his record going back some decades now, of getting things incredibly wrong, given that record, he might actually pause for a second and maybe just, or even write the exact opposite of what he really thinks, and for once get it right.
Yeah, maybe loosen the bandana might help. Now, Mark, I've got to get your thoughts on this court case in Switzerland, where a number of women have challenged their government not doing enough to prevent climate change. They've actually won the case. And they're women in their 70s, and they got special consideration from the court because because of their age and their gender, they're more susceptible to global warming. I would have thought in Switzerland, if the planet gets a little bit warmer, it might help them get through winter rather than be a a threat to their lives.
Well, no, thank God for these women, Chris. They're forgetting their hot flushes. They've figured it out. They've found out it's the Swiss that were responsible for this climate change nonsense the whole time. Everyone pointing their fingers at China, racist. It was Switzerland the whole time. They're the ones to blame with their chocolate and little knives and everything. They're the ones that have been causing all this problem, all this nonsense.
Here we are.
It's actually a pretty scary case because it does open up the floodgates. The idea of not doing enough to mitigate the damages caused from climate change. That is genuinely terrifying from an international
It is a worry.
perspective. That's
if
really
we see
scary.
that in the Australian High Court or the US Supreme Court, we're all finished. But yeah, it does do in the theory that Australia is killing the global climate. You're right. It's actually Switzerland. Don't you? No one mentioned China. No one mentioned China. They get off scot-free. Thanks for joining us, Mark and Tim. Appreciate it. We'll catch up with you next week.